Well, I can't say I was responsible for that seagull's death over there. Poor sod got hit by a car or a van or something like that. I only came in and saw the aftermath as I was coming out of work. But good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. That's probably not why you called. I won't lie though, like I said in that seagull video that I did in the past, I can't exactly feel a lot of sympathy for them, not after all the shit that they've caused. Now today there are a couple of things that I want to talk about first and foremost. I want to talk about reform, and I also want to talk about September 13th. So let's get this 13th out of the way first, which is the freedom of speech rally that Tommy Robinson is organising. I can't remember off the top of my head if I said this already, but it's currently tentative with me. Hopefully I can save a little bit of dosh and maybe make plans to go up there. No guarantees, no promises yet. But apparently, from what I understand, it's going to be massive. Like, really, really massive. Who said bigger than you? Shut up, you. I'm not that big. Jesus Christ. People have to understand I'm not that bloody big. And I probably never will be, to be honest. But there's one thing that's absolutely certain, and that is there's going to be a substantial number of people up there. And I would argue it's our last chance to end this peacefully, because more and more people are losing hope in the democratic system, which is about as functional as a wheelless car. And I've been saying it time and time again, I don't think we're going to get to the next general election before civil war breaks out. And as I've also said, and always will say without fail, I don't want it to descend to civil war. But at this point, we have to be realistic. We have to understand that Keir the traitor Starmer is using the war with Russia to cover up his preparation for a civil war. Keir the traitor Starmer is doing everything he can to antagonise and provoke the people of England. The old far-right name tag, locking up people for political motivations, protecting nonces and paedophiles as well as terrorists, and saying he'll do all he can to protect the Muslim community, just to name a few things. As I said before, that bitch has literally gone to shell and is trying to pour the tankard on the fire. Sorry, tanker, not tankard. But you get what I mean. Everything he has done has been completely inflammatory. Everything he has done has been specifically to spark a revolution. What Keir the traitor fails to understand is that if he does that, he is going to cement himself in history as the world's worst prime minister. And he will do that for a number of reasons. He's effectively going to be it primarily because he's the only prime minister, or will be the only prime minister, to actually provoke a civil war in his own country. And that is not something you frankly want to be known for. It's something that you want to be as far away from that shit as possible. And the mainstream media will do everything in their power to try and label us English patriots as far right, or associate us with a bad smell. Should have got a bargain bin skunk at Tesco's. Anyway, they're going to try and associate us with every bad label under the sun, not realising that all their words have as much meaning as a wet piece of toilet paper. Once a bit of toilet paper's been used, you know what they're going to do with it? They're going to put it straight in the fucking bowl. I mean, there ain't any real shot that Keir the traitor Starmer can expect his media to get this all to blow over, as it were. And even if he does succeed at making this happen, as I said, the only person he'll have to blame for this starting up will be himself. He won't be able to blame Tommy Robinson. He won't be able to blame the far right. He won't be able to blame the Tories. He'll only have himself to blame. And the people who are ahead of us, who are in the future, as it were, they'll look back at this and see what Keir the traitor Starmer really was. A dictator and an anarchist, as well as, of course, a sectarian bastard. And when it does kick off, his career is over. Just like that. There will be no way he will be able to maintain his position as Prime Minister. Again? Good old times. What Tommy Robinson is trying to do is not start a civil war, but instead to start a cultural movement, a movement that will inspire the United Kingdom, that will get people on the streets protesting against our establishment, the establishment that has continued to persecute us while turning our country into a third world shithole. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. Keir the traitor Starmer would rather have us all bury our heads in the sand and shut up for the sakes of diversity. He would rather us ignore the children that are being systematically raped by predominantly Pakistani Muslim men. They would rather us ignore the two-tier justice and the two-tier policing that is going on in this country. They would rather us continue to let this country go to shit while he gets more money and more power. Keir the traitor Starmer. What more is there to say about him? But on a side note, I do want to talk about King Charles's little statement saying that he wants to promote a diverse culture and a diverse country, which, well, we've already seen how tolerant Islam is. We've already seen how tolerant the LGBTQ community is when they're not allowed to shove their opinions down our throats. We see them about as tolerant as someone with a nut allergen. Boy, oh boy, those nuts are gonna fucking hurt, let me tell you. That's the thing. You can't bring in people from cultures that are systematically hateful of our own society, of our own cultures. You can't expect that. It's just not going to happen. Islam is intolerant of most other societies. Hell, they basically hate every other country, but they want to come to here anyway. Especially when Anjem Choudary goes out of his way to preach to people to, and I quote, claim jihadi seekers allowance. His words, not mine, obviously. And I don't particularly like that man. The man has about as much popularity as a dead skunk in a car. But in the end, I know Tommy Robinson's going to promote a peaceful movement through London. It is effectively our last chance to try and secure some semblance of peace, because within the next 3 to 9 months, I suspect it is all going to kick off. I mean, think about it. Do you honestly think we're going to reach 2029 or 2030, whenever the next general election is, and we're going to be able to vote our way out of this one? We've seen how this first past the post system works, which is categorically there to prevent minority parties from being able to get into power or to get many seats. How else do you think Reform only got 5 seats when they got a substantial number of the votes? To me, it makes about as much sense as net zero. But what I will always do, no matter what my opinions are, no matter what my thoughts are, whether I think we're about to head towards a civil war or not, I will always, I've done this without fail, I'll always be respectful of the host's movement. I will not go out of my way to say, time to do this, that and the other. I'm not going to go out of my way and stir up the crowd. I need a pretty big fucking spoon for that. Anyway, I'm not going to go out of my way to spread the message other than for peace while I'm at this movement. And I'm going to remain respectful when I'm at that movement, as I've always done. But I will say this much. Whenever I've been to some of these movements, and I have mentioned some of these things that I think it's going to go to civil war, a lot of people have agreed. And a lot of people have even been saying, it's time for action, not words. It's time for us to do something rather than prance about in the streets and sing Kumbaya. And I wholeheartedly agree with it. We need proper, robust action. We don't need more singing. Singing has not worked. That's the way I look at it. And peaceful protests have mostly not worked. This is our last chance, the way I look at it. Because every single time we've tried to be peaceful, the only real time we've had any successful results... Oh, shut up, you. I feel like I'm about to get dive bombed, so I better have my bottle standing by. But anyway, the way I look at it is... It doesn't matter what I think. I will always remain peaceful at these protests made by Tommy Robinson. It's out of respect for him more than anything. But I do think before long, it's going to get to the stage where there's going to be a revolution and there ain't going to be much we can do to stop it. I don't want it. I won't advocate for it. I won't condone it. But the cold bitter truth is, I suspect that's what the future holds for us, quite frankly. The only hope we've got is that this movement is so fucking big, so massive are the numbers turning out to this event that we're actually going to absolutely spook the shit out of the establishment. One could only hope, though. And I do think, realistically, I do think that it's probably not going to work, but I will support it in good faith. And if it does work, fucking fantastic. But I would advise people to be prepared for the worst. Don't go up there with face coverings. Make sure you bring lots of water, because it's going to still be the edge of summer, I would say. So I would say make sure you bring a lot of hydration so you stop yourself from dying of thirst or whatever. And ultimately, don't give the establishment any opportunity to turn this into something it shouldn't, because we've known that they like to put infiltrators in. They've got their little the protest group, or whatever it is, a special group by the government specifically designed to send masked men into protests to agitate the crowd, with the media waiting on standby to take the pictures, because then how else are they going to be able to discredit us? That's the thing. If we all go up there unmasked and obviously doing our best to put on a good impression and be cheery and what have you, their ability to discredit it just disintegrates, just like that. Because then people can start doing their research onto any of these little fuckers that come up to this rally unmasked and trying to cause trouble. And then when it basically gets unveiled that these guys are from the government or part of some undercover team or whatever, how bad do you think that's going to make the government look? That's what it effectively boils down to. They want this to fail. Tommy is going to make sure this succeeds. I am going to be respectful, and I'm going to try and make sure it succeeds, even though I personally think it's going to fail. But I will do my best to be supportive of the group. I may not get too cringy and start fucking singing and dancing like a dancing dad or whatever, but I'll be there to just keep it all positive and what have you. There will be counter-protests, undoubtedly, but they're going to have as much atmosphere as a fucking funeral. Someone's stolen my seat at the back, so I'm having to sit at the front now. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, the bottom line is, as far as that protest is concerned, though not the end of the video, is put simply, I am going to be respectful at all times. And we must do everything we can to make sure that this event is the biggest in English history, that it promotes our worth and shows everyone that we are capable. Most of the time when you see the establishment, they put us all down. They say we're not good enough. We have to depend upon other people. We have to have this, we have to have that, we have to have the other. No, we fucking don't. The only thing we have to have is spirit. And I'm not talking about holistic spirit. I'm talking about the tenacity, the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to actually stand up and be accounted for. The way I see it, this is our moment. Oh, one other point. I mentioned it briefly, but I didn't fully address this, but King Charles needs to abdicate, quite frankly. He has shown his allegiance to Islam and the WEF. He is not a king of principle, he is a king of political reasons. And last time I checked, royalty should not have any hand in politics, and therefore he is in breach of his monarchical code. Is that a word? Basically, he's not fulfilling his role as a king. And you know what? In my humble opinion, and this is subjective, you know what I think? I think the name Charles needs to be tabooed from all of the monarchy. Because think about it, we may have only had 2 King Charles, but one of them was a warmonger who literally spent the taxpayers' money funding wars, which I guess when he got beheaded makes him the war king dead now, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm sorry, that was awful. No, I'm not sorry. But anyway, and now we've got, obviously, Charles II, who is as English as a French baguette at this point. The man is a sectarian. He is a wokarati WEF treacherous shill. He is a traitor to the country, and bare minimum he needs to be deposed. And at worst, well, you can probably think of the rest. I don't know if I'd say he's the worst king, but I would definitely say he's up there. But as far as the movement, no matter what I think, I'm going to do everything I can, and we should all do our bit to make sure that this event from Tommy Robinson is successful. Don't give the establishment any excuses. But now let's talk about reform, and in particular, Nigel Farage. I think the thing that most prominently sticks out for me is what he said on LBC about Rupert, Lowe and Ben Habib. I think you'll recall this, basically where he said these are two one-man parties that have been started by people whose parties are as big as their egos. I mean, the man clearly hasn't been to Matalan and bought a £5 mirror, because the lack of self-reflection is extremely apparent in this particular statement. This is the two-tier policing society. Oh, it was an ambulance, sorry. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, Nigel cannot clearly do any self-reflection whatsoever, because he perfectly described himself, a man with an ego as big as his party, if not bigger. The man who is suffering from the biggest messiah complex in history, and there are a lot of reformians, basically the diehards, who will cling to his beck and whim, who, if he was told to say, "Down boy," they would all sit down and do as they were told. But it is very, very clear that Nigel is increasingly becoming the man who is not the answer. I mean, it's pretty damning when Tommy Robinson himself has categorically issued a statement to say, get behind Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage is not the answer, Rupert is. I mean, that is damning. I mean, you can't expect somebody like Tommy Robinson, who you have been slagging off for years, Nigel, you can't expect him to take that line down, especially when your spineless, cowardly arse won't debate him on LBC. Hell, I think they've even given him a media ban. I wonder why that is. A media ban for Tommy Robinson. I wonder why. Is it because they know full well that he would take them to the cleaners if he was allowed on that show to defend himself? I mean, all that ever seems to come out of the mainstream media mouthpiece is nothing but libelous slander and absolute lies. I mean, if you were asking us to write down all the times that the mainstream media have falsely slagged off Tommy Robinson with fake news, we could probably produce you a list that would last you into the next year's Christmas. Whereas if you asked us to basically mention all the times where the media have actually mentioned truthful articles about Tommy Robinson, you'd be lucky if my mum could write something down on a cigarette packet. Thank you. I mean, the more Nigel Farage goes out of his way to slag off Tommy Robinson, the more of his core voters he'll lose. And he'll only do even more damage if he starts attacking people like Rupert Lowe or Ben Habib. It seems like Nigel Farage just wants to take all of his accomplishments that he's done over these couple of decades and he wants to flush them down the toilet, quite frankly. And it's a very sad sight to see, even though I don't really like the man anymore. I may not like the guy, but that doesn't mean I can't feel sorry for him, because at the end of the day, he has had probably what I would consider one of the biggest political opportunities he will have ever had in his entire career. And he blew it all away, just like that. Think about it. Delivered us Brexit, challenged the establishment, took on the banks, made a name for himself. And now that he has this reform party, it's almost like his brain, it's almost like he's thinking with the head between his legs and not the head on his shoulders. I bet, stroke number one, I bet that thing has been doing all the barraging here. That'll teach me to try and be witty. Anyway, the fact is he has blown his reputation clean out of the water. He has blown his credibility out of the water. All this because he doesn't want to associate with Tommy Robinson, which is fair enough. But there is something that we should all know, just from growing up, and that is, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. Who the fuck put this through my fucking door? I am not pregnant. I don't look like a woman, even though I've got a banging set of tits. Oh my god. No, just get this out. Fucking period pain no more. I needed that. Oh, this has gone and frustrated me to no end. Unbelievable. Right, I really have vented now. So, back to reform. And I'll be reforming my hair, I know. Frustration hairstyle, it's not a very good thingy of it. But Nigel Farage has single-handedly destroyed his own credibility and reputation just because he wants to distance himself from Tommy Robinson. And I get that. Tommy has never asked to join reform. Tommy Robinson has never gone out of his way to say, hey, bud, can you make me an MP for your party? I can get you loads of votes. He's never done that. I mean, he was briefly a member of UKIP, I think. But I think that was done by Gerard Batten because he saw what kind of a good person he was. But then, understandably, Nigel Farage kicked him out of UKIP. Do I think it was the right answer? No. I personally think he should have kept him. But we know what Farage is like. He is effectively a left-wing shill who is parading himself as a centre-right figure, who is parading his Reform Party as a centre-right party. It is not a centre-right party anymore. It's becoming very fucking apparent. It is merely just a left-wing Marxist party, maybe not in the traditional sense of they have those values, but more they're there as the kind of mask of deception, as it were. They're there to put on a narrative that says, look at us, we're a centre-right party, we're going to put you first. And what do you think's going to happen the moment he gets into power? We've already seen him flip-flop harder than Gandhi's sandals. We've already seen him lie about what he thinks of mass deportations. On the one hand, he's sitting there saying, we're not a fan of mass deportations, but then come the local elections, we will mass deport. What does that say about him? Can't even stick to his own principles. And a man who can't stick to his own principles is worth as much as a chocolate fireguard, quite frankly. Nick Tenconi has not had that problem because what he has said about his policies and his missions, he's stuck to. He wasn't, oh, I'll do this, and then 5 months down the line he's like, oh, you know what, I've changed my mind, I'm going to do this instead. No, he is stuck by all of his missions and his principles. To put Christianity at the heart of our society, to deport all of the terrorists on the MI5 watch list, to basically make it so that any illegal that is over here, or any foreign national that commits crimes over here, is mass deported, and he is effectively wanting to put our security first. Nigel Farage was sooner willing to bend the knee to Islam by categorically saying, if we alienate the Muslim vote, we will lose. No, you won't. You'll lose the Muslim vote, but you won't lose the vote if you actually use your fucking common sense and stop slagging off people who've been supportive of you. Like, you completely fucked around and found out as far as Tommy Robinson is concerned. He was doing nothing but be respectful to you. He was doing nothing but praising you. He may have had the odd time where he's like, I think you've got this wrong, but most of the time, Tommy was in your fucking corner. The boxing ring, he was there. He was right by your side, patting you on the back, giving you the bottle of water, telling you to get back in there and take the fight to the establishment. And how did you repay him? You basically turned around and sucker punched him in the face. Metaphorically speaking, of course. You basically took his kindness and spat in his face, quite frankly. That was probably your gravest mistake. I mean, you can say all you want about him attacking Rupert Lowe and what happened with Yusuf. Or maybe I was right first time. You can say all you want about those three and their little love triangle, if you will. But I think the gravest mistake was by far when he slandered Tommy Robinson, when he went out of his way to falsely accuse Tommy Robinson of being a wife beater and a woman beater, and you know you fucked up. when even Jenna Lennon, his ex-wife, is coming out categorically giving a statement defending her ex-husband. That's when you know you have fucked up on a monumental level. He lost a lot of credibility for that. What did we do in 2024 when we had that movement in July or June or whatever it was, June the 1st or, yeah, it was June the 1st. He told us, vote reform. We took that in good faith and we voted for them in good faith. And for him to turn around and just sully everything that he's done, to sully everything that we've done for him, it is the ultimate act of disrespect that you can do. Thankless wanker. That's what Farage is. And I know some people are not going to like me saying that, but you know what? I've always been like this, and you can say it with me. I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I'm not going to mince my words. I'm going to say it exactly how it is, and I will do my best not to bullshit you. And the way I slice it, if I was the leader of a party and I've got some massive heroic figure giving me hundreds of thousands of votes, the last thing I'll be doing is slagging him off. No chance. The only remotest consideration of that would be if Tommy Robinson was supporting terrorism. That's it. If Tommy Robinson was supporting stuff that was below the belt, as it were, or basically illegal, then I would consider, no, I can't do this. I can't accept this. But other than that, I'd be taking those fucking votes and I'd be thanking my lucky stars, quite frankly. But Nigel, he just blew that all to the wind and even doubled down on it. And he wonders why his party is losing members. And I do honestly think that membership counter, I think there is a hint of bullshit with it. Because I'm starting to think more and more as time goes on that Nigel Farage is faker than Hollywood teeth. He is a man who used to stand for so much, who actually was a man you could stand behind. Well, as long as he doesn't fart in a gas room. Anyway, he was a man you could stand behind. He was a man who you could support and admire. But now look at him. A shell of what he once was. A man who has sold his principles downriver for political correctness. A man who has betrayed his own people for the sakes of wanting to stay in the oligarchy. That's the cold, bitter truth. That is honestly the way I see it. And I don't like doing this, but there is a certain someone who, I think you'll know who I'm talking about, who went out of his way to say that Rupert, Lowe and Ben Habib should have joined forces and took down reform from within. Devil's advocate, I can understand his viewpoint here. I can understand why he wants to say that, because those two are actually men of principle. Those two are men you can stand behind, unlike Nigel Farage now. And the idea of those people taking down the Reform Party from within, it sounds like a great idea on paper, but unfortunately you have to bear in mind, as much as I don't like saying it, Nigel Farage has more support than Rupert, Lowe and Ben Habib together. That's the thing. There are too many blind followers of the Reform Party who would literally follow Nigel Farage into the furnaces of hell. And therefore, they wouldn't be willing to cast themselves from that path just for the sakes of getting on board the Rupert, Lowe, Ben Habib train in the hopes they're going to derail that bitch. That's honestly my humble thinking as far as devil's advocacy is concerned. But when you realise that support, As I said, they ain't got a hope in hell of doing that. And I think at best, it would have been foolish, and at worst, it could have been career-destroying for those two. They could have literally seen their career go up in smoke, just like that. And I don't think this individual is thinking properly. And bear in mind, this individual as well did end up going to Spain rather than staying in his own damn country. This man, while he is not a grifter, I will say that much, he is certainly a man who... he suffers from pot kettle black syndrome, is what I like to think of it as. Because he likes to sit there and talk about people who show their fake patriotism. But we're not the ones who went to Spain, Mr. Thorpe. That's the thing. Real patriots don't run. Well, good luck me running in my way. Anyway, good patriots don't run. Good patriots stand by and ready themselves for the fight, no matter how unfit they are. You want to sit here and slag people off for fake patriotism? Why don't I go down to Matalan and buy you a nice mirror for £5? Just email me where you are and I will send that mirror over to you. Don't worry, I ain't going to plan to dox you because I'm not as low as the scumbags on the left. But hey, I'm more than willing to go down to a store, buy a mirror for you for £5 so that you can self-reflect on what you've said. Because here's the thing. You can accuse people all you want of fake patriotism, but you have to understand, every single time you open your mouth, including me, every time I open my mouth, I have to think, is this going to reflect badly on me? Is this going to essentially reflect off this window that I've got and hit me square in the chest? I know I sometimes say things that, obviously, I joke about how big I am and what have you, but it doesn't change the fact that if I'm responsible for some things, I'll happily put my hand up and admit it. And I will say, I also am responsible for this to some degree, or I'm also guilty of this. But I don't see any of that from you, Paul Thorpe. All I see is a man who wants to have a go at other people, who wants to basically act like some self-righteous, pompous prick, bluntly speaking. And I know people are not going to like me saying that about Paul Thorpe, but that's honestly the impression he gives when he goes out of his way to attack so-called fake patriots. What say you? What say you, Paul Thorpe? Because I'll tell you one thing. Some of us don't have the capacity to help as much as maybe you have. Some of us aren't sitting here with a bank balance loaded to the tits with cash. Some of us aren't sitting here as successful businessmen who have sold whatever products they have and now earning a nice big fat cash stack every single fucking day. And obviously I'm exaggerating in your case, but not everyone is as blessed as you, Paul Thorpe. Bear that in mind when you're slagging people off. I don't want to be sitting here slagging off people on my own fucking side, but I'm not going to hesitate to call out shit like this. Because one day, that's a big fucking bee, Jesus. Anyway, one day, that might end up hitting me squarely in the chest. It may be me that you decide to target, Paul Thorpe. Or it may be someone else down the line who is not afraid to speak their mind, who is not afraid to say it how it is, and is not afraid to call your shit out, Paul Thorpe. Now, if it does turn out that some of these people are genuinely faker than Hollywood teeth, fair enough. Go full ham on them. But be very careful where you aim your gun, metaphorically speaking. Because one day, you're going to fire off shots, you're going to fire off at someone, and you're going to hit someone that's innocent. But someone who is not afraid to stand their ground. I'm not afraid to stand my ground against bigger people. Bear that in mind. There are some people who I have heard a lot of things about from what I would call a very credible source. Things that would certainly shake up the pot, as it were. So be very, very careful with what you say, Paul Thorpe. Be very, very careful. I don't want to see a good patriot make a grave mistake. I don't want to see a man destroy his credibility just like that because he wants to call out people and make himself look self-righteous. I'm certainly no angel. I'm not sitting here on Turd Mountain as king shit, as it were, claiming that I'm holier than everyone else. I am an ordinary English patriot, a working class citizen, and I am not afraid to stand by that. I am a patriot who is not afraid to go into battle, no matter how unfit a soldier I am. And believe you me, I've seen the army pride around in LGBTQ marches in fucking Pride London, making an absolute arse of themselves. So believe you me, I know how much of an unfit soldier I am, quite frankly. But at least my values are straight, let me tell you. But the bottom line in all this is that reform definitely are not the answer, and more people need to wake up to that. But more than anything, we need to watch ourselves, especially Paul Thorpe, because he is walking on thin ice at this point, and he is going to end up making one wrong move, and he's going to be pulled under in an instant. He needs to be very, very careful. He needs to stop throwing stones in glass houses. And if he doesn't, he may end up finding a boulder being thrown in there with him in it. Metaphorically speaking, of course. At the end of the day, we should all be together, not at each other's throats. This is why I've said time and time again, the one thing the Muslim community / Islamic community has over us indigenous people of England, they have a much tighter-knit community than us. And Paul needs to take a hint. If he's going to divide this community, then Islam and the government will eventually conquer.